Hello classic crew, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking about why everyone is obsessed with Bridgerton and how you can incorporate that kind of thing into your life right now. If you've scrolled on Instagram, you've probably seen a ton of reels that are all kind of inspired by Bridgerton. And they're all the idea that somebody watched Bridgerton and then realized that that's how they wanted to live their life. They love the idea of being a character in Bridgerton or dressing like Bridgerton or anything else from the show. Now, I've watched Bridgerton and it happens in sort of a fictional history of the Regency era. And there are things about the show that I really liked, and there were things about the show that I didn't think were very appropriate. There are very many inappropriate sex scenes, so just as a warning for those of you who haven't seen the show. But anything Regency era is very kind of romantic and inspiring, and so many of the videos that I've been watching have made me think that women think that this stuff is really entirely out of their reach, when you can be a lady right now and you can kind of have the modern version of a Regency era romance right now, and that you can act like a very fancy lady right now. All of these things are entirely available to us, and just because there is something very fanciful about the Regency era doesn't mean that we can't bring that into our lives today. Now, I really believe that there is something so special about being a lady, and that we have the capability to be ladies today in 2021. Now, does that mean that we get to wear the beautiful Regency era gowns and have somebody do our hair whenever we want? No. But it does mean that we have the flexibility to incorporate that kind of thing into our everyday lives. The thing is that being a lady never goes out of style. And when you watch these sort of reels and TikToks showing women embracing their femininity and embracing the idea of being a lady, it makes me sad to think that the culture has eschewed ladylike behavior and being a lady and being dressed up and fancy and all of those things as patriarchal or oppressive or even just out of fashion. The fact is, women love this stuff. That's why Bridgerton does so well. That's why all of these women are making these videos. So I wanted to share with you a few different reasons why Bridgerton is so popular, how you can incorporate this kind of thing into your modern day life, and why being a lady is pretty dang awesome, if you ask me. So let's get into it. The first thing I want to mention is the music in Bridgerton. What they did for the music in Bridgerton was that they actually took a bunch of modern day songs by artists that you know and recognize, and they turned them into classical music. They made classical versions of those songs. And so when you watch these TikToks or reels on Instagram, a lot of the music that you're hearing is the classical version of Thank You Next by Ariana Grande or something like that. And the thing for me is, I think people are so intimidated by classical music, but this is a perfect example of why you don't need to be. The reason that people love the music from Bridgerton is because they already know the tunes. It's not that classical music in and of itself is scary. It's that it can be overwhelming to be introduced to not only a new style of music, but also new melodies. The way that they turned new songs into classical versions of themselves is actually a great way to introduce people to classical music, because then you're not totally freaked out by the new kind of style, that classical style with only instruments like a violin or a cello that maybe you don't hear every day, since you already know the melody. And that really does make it so much less intimidating. Classical music, as an opera singer, you guys know, I love classical music, and I think that there is so much potential for people to really learn to love it, because the fact of the matter is that classical music isn't in and of itself scary. It's just that people are not familiar and they feel bad for being overwhelmed. When you first try and learn something entirely new, you really do have to take baby steps. And so I actually think it's a really cool thing that they did that. They kind of remind me of that band Two Cellos, who I've seen in concert, who take new songs and they play them on the cello. And it's just a way to introduce people to instrumentation and classical music. So the way that you can incorporate this into your life is you can listen to classical music. Now that you've heard it and you like it and you kind of think it's fun, you'll be able to approach classical music with a little bit less fear. And once you listen to it a little bit, you'll be able to listen to it a little bit more, and then you'll eventually be listening to it a lot. And it really does make you feel classic and elegant. Having classical music on while you study, or having classical music on while you read, or having classical music on while you are eating dinner with your husband or your fiance or your boyfriend or your family, all of those things really do bring a tad of elegance into your home and will make you feel just that little bit more Bridgerton appropriate, if you know what I mean. So I think that this is something that can be incorporated into your life in 2021 so easily. This is not something that only existed in the Regency era, and you can totally have that in 2021. Like, that is so available to us. How lucky are we that we get to be able to pull up Spotify and find every single classical music piece that's ever been written? It's pretty awesome. So take advantage. We get to do it, and just like they have in Bridgerton, we get that opportunity too. Number 2 is having good manners and acting like a lady. One of the things that you'll see on these Instagram reels and TikToks is people going from, oh, I watched Bridgerton, to, hello, grab the carriage, and oh yes please, turn the channel down, and oh yes please, I'd love a glass of sherry, you know, that kind of thing. Because there's something really fun about seeing people act in a way that sort of seems foreign to us. It's like very formalized. But the fact is, it doesn't have to be formal to be ladylike. Having good manners never goes out of fashion, and it will only ever help you. I think acting like a lady is something that was entirely appropriate in the Regency era and in Bridgerton, and is something that can totally be transferred into our daily lives nowadays. Being eloquent and thoughtful about the things that we say, addressing people with respect, and having a little bit of formality in the right situations is a really wonderful thing. It makes you feel a little bit more grand. And it's not to say that you are better than anybody else. It's just to say that you feel like you can be taken seriously. And I love that. I think acting like a lady makes me feel like I have so much worth. And I think that that is an invaluable thing for women from the time that they're 9 to the time that they're 99. Women always should feel like they are special, like they have worth. And acting with good manners, acting like a lady, bringing attention to detail, acting like a lady is something that is frowned upon in today's day and age when it absolutely shouldn't be. Being a lady is so important because it shows pride in what we can do and how we behave. And I think that is incredibly lovely. Number 3 is the romantic tension in Bridgerton that everyone is longing for. The main reason for this tension is that everyone in Bridgerton is dating for marriage. Now, I'm not saying that there are not issues in that era where people were getting set up with people who they didn't want to marry and then kind of forced to marry them. I am not saying that any of that is a good thing. But what I'm talking about is the idea that people took marriage seriously and took dating seriously. And when you are dating for marriage, that tension that exists in a show like Bridgerton, or even in a movie like Pride and Prejudice, exists now, that in a good way, not the bad kind of tension, but the good kind of romantic tension, the kind of tension that builds because you know that this is building towards something, and it's exciting and it's new and it's taking a relationship in the right order, as opposed to Tinder dating and swiping and hooking up with a bunch of different people and not building romantic tension in the same way. The reason that a hand touch or taking someone's arm in a Pride and Prejudice kind of movie or in Bridgerton is so romantic is because they take touching seriously. They treat it with the respect it deserves. The relationship between men and women has weight, and I think that that is something that is so well played out in a show like Bridgerton. And the reason there's romantic tension in a show like Bridgerton is because these things are taken seriously. Now, this can be brought into nowadays because we can date for marriage. As somebody who is a proponent of dating for marriage, I know that romantic tension builds in a similar way. When you're dating for fun and you're not taking any of it seriously, the romantic tension is there, but it's very different. It's not in the same way as a show like Bridgerton, where dating really does matter. And that is something I think that you can very easily bring in today's day and age, and maybe you'll have that same sort of romantic tension as they do on Bridgerton. Even though I don't like that there are a lot of sex scenes in Bridgerton, one of the things I think people are into about the show is the fact that Daphne, who is one of the main characters, is a virgin on her wedding night, and how romantic it is for her. Hello! Of course we can bring this into today's day and age. As somebody who is a proponent of waiting until marriage, you can have that same experience. Daphne's character is incredibly sheltered, and I honestly think that that intimate scene, which I'm not a proponent of watching, is very inaccurate to what probably would have actually been her experience as someone who had no idea what was going on. I would probably guess that she'd be giggling quite a bit more than she was in that scene. But in any case, it is so special to wait until marriage and to share that experience with your husband for the first time, and to know that when you do have sex for the first time, you're doing it with someone who is committed to you, mind, body, and soul. And that is something I think is incredibly important and also makes it look very attractive on this show. Now, again, not a great thing that she really doesn't know anything going into it. Not a proponent of that. I think that women should definitely know how all of that works and what to expect. I don't think women should be kept in the dark. That's not what I'm a proponent of. But I do think that the idea of waiting until marriage is really special. And the idea that, yes, women who watch the show are going to look at it and think, wow, that's really special that the two of them share this experience together, even though he has had his many experiences. I'm not a huge fan of that. But the idea that for her it was so special, I think that that is something that we can totally live out in today's day and age. And you can take kind of inspiration from Bridgerton to find romance for yourself by waiting until marriage. The fifth and final thing that I want to talk about is dressing like a Regency lady. Now, we can't dress in beautiful gowns every day because it's just not socially acceptable, unfortunately. Whoever decided that we were not going to wear gowns anymore, I know the whole history, but whoever decided, we have a beef. Not a huge fan about that, because now we have to wear athleisure half the time, or at least many people choose to. But in any case, dressing like a lady can 100% be a part of your ladylike life. Dressing like a lady is something that you can totally incorporate into your life, and it's something that I love doing. You don't have to just have a Regency era gown to feel beautiful. There are so many beautiful dresses, beautiful tops and pants that look wonderful and make you feel put together and ladylike. And I think that this is something that is really, I understand why women are looking to Bridgerton and saying, I wish my life were like this, because they haven't been taught the value of embracing their femininity, the value of embracing their womanhood, and the value of embracing being a lady. So when they watch a show like this, they just long for something that to them feels totally out of reach and doesn't feel like they could actually accomplish. When you can. You can dress well every day. You can take care of your looks and feel beautiful every single day. Now, does that mean that you have to have an hour and a half to get ready every morning? Absolutely not. But you can decide what will make you feel beautiful and like a lady and incorporate that into your everyday. And my point isn't necessarily that you have to do your hair and have to do your makeup and have to wear a certain thing to feel like a lady. I think that there is some flexibility and there is a spectrum. For me, part of feeling like a lady is doing a full face of makeup, but for another woman, it might just be throwing on some mascara and some lip balm, and she would still feel beautiful. And I think that is so important, is knowing that you can be a lady every single day. But I think the reason so many women watch Bridgerton and wish that this is something they could have and long for it is because it feels like a fantasy. It feels like this is something that they can't incorporate into their everyday. And being a lady is something that you can do every day and feel every day and be every day. So those are the 5 reasons I think that Bridgerton is much more available to us than women might realize. And watching Bridgerton just made me realize how many women long to be ladies, but don't necessarily give themselves the opportunity. And I hope that this gives a little bit of insight into the fact that you can absolutely feel like a woman and feel like a lady even if you're not in the Regency era. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'd love to have you join the classic crew, and make sure to ring that notification bell to get notified of all my new videos. Make sure to subscribe to my newsletter. I just revamped it. It's going to have a lot more information, and it'll only hit your inbox about twice a month. So you're not going to be inundated with emails. You'll just get a little dose of classic into your inbox a couple times a month with a classic tip and conservative quotes and looks of the week and things like that. So I'd love to have you sign up for that, and I'll put the link in the description box below. If you'd like to see what I'm up to in my day-to-day, feel free to follow me on all of my socials. It's at Classically Abby everywhere. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!